everybody, it's Tanya Atomic, and this is my review of Terminator Dark Fate. Sorry about my open door, but my two cats were out there in the hallway, and they were like, no girl, you are not closing that door. So they wouldn't let me close the door, and now they're fighting in the hall. Well, they're playing, they love each other. So yeah, Max and Onyx are out there being goofballs, and they will not allow me to have that door closed right now. Anyway, on to the movie review. Okay, so Terminator Dark Fate. I just saw Terminator Dark Fate, and I have to say, hey, don't scratch my aims. Thank you. They're good boys, but sometimes they forget. Anyway, I have to say it was one of the weirdest experiences I had in the theater lately. If you are a fan of the Terminator series and you go see this or have seen this, you probably understand what I'm saying. I mean, the choices made in this film are just odd to me. They go against canon, and it doesn't really make sense why they would do that. It basically is a recycled Terminator 2 plot line, and they just do it again, but they have to force certain things to happen to certain characters in order to do that, and it doesn't really make sense why they do that, and it kind of really goes against canon and goes against, like, and there's things that like kind of go against the time travel part and things that go against character, and it just feels weird because everything else I think is done really well. The actors are great. The characters are good. The action sequences are really exciting. I have heard from some people that the action sequences are a little too neat, and some of the CGI and everything is too neat, too tight, and it makes it feel like there aren't real world consequences, so you don't feel that tension and that pressure or the fear for the characters kind of thing. You're not like involved as much in it because everything is so neat and wrapped up. But it is very slick and glossy and done well in that way. But I do understand. I didn't think that at the time when I saw the movie, but looking back, I could definitely see that point. Some of the action stuff is very neat and tight, and it takes it out of the real world, and so you don't feel the real world consequences as much. The direction is really good. I mean, there are all these things that are really good, but then the story choices are weird, especially the fact that it goes against the other films. It goes against the canon of the other films, and certain things happen that you're like, what? And then it's kind of thrown away. Like, those things aren't that important, even though to the audience they are very important. So yeah, it was weird. It was kind of like, okay, let's say you're like watching Lord of the Rings, like Fellowship of the Rings for the first time, the Peter Jackson version, and you're watching it and you're like, this is so good, everyone works so well, there's all this chemistry, everything looks good. I can't believe that such an epic story could ever be translated to film this way and be so true to the story. But it's so good. And then you watch the Two Towers and you're like, oh, this is so good. It's more of the same, so good. And then you're watching Return of the King, and everything is the same and everything is great, except all of a sudden Frodo is being played by a tomato. Like, instead of Elijah Wood, there's a tomato. And in every scene with Frodo, there's a tomato. All the other actors are taking everything really seriously. They're all responding with all this urgency or with all this, legitimacy. And scenes without Frodo, you feel like everything's normal. Like the characters are interacting. It reminds you of the other film. You kind of forget. And then all of a sudden, Frodo is on screen again, but it's a tomato. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, Frodo is a tomato. And all the other actors are acting like that there's nothing wrong. But you're like, what the heck? Like, Frodo's a tomato. I mean, it would totally take you out of the film. It makes you feel weird. But even more weird is how good everything else is and how you forget sometimes with the scenes without the tomato. Do you see what I'm trying to say? It's like there's a really big tomato in Terminator Dark Fate, and sometimes you forget that the tomato is there, but it's not part of the movie. It's a tomato, and it shouldn't be there. And it feels weird. It feels really odd. And that's all I could say. Like, I didn't hate watching the film. Like, there were good segments, sequences. Some of the acting was like really good, and I really enjoyed a lot of it. But there were times that felt weird. Like, wait, this doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel like it's in the world of Terminator. I mean, I'm the kind of person, though, like me personally, I love the first Terminator film, and I feel like it kind of lives on its own. It's encapsulated and never needed sequels, although the sequels are interesting and fun. I understand why people love Terminator 2 so much. I didn't see it when it came out. I remember when the teaser trailers came out, and there was Arnold Schwarzenegger's butt in this little thing, and then it said T2, and I remember that teaser trailer, but I never saw the film when it came out. I saw it years later, like actually way later. Like I'm talking a couple years ago, probably like maybe 10 years ago. So it was a little bit different probably for me. Some of the really cool effects and the cool CGI already kind of looked sort of old when I saw it. I enjoyed the film. I'm not saying that I didn't enjoy the film. I enjoyed Terminator 2. But just for a long time, I felt as if Terminator was a really good, solid, standalone film. Anyway, that said, like, Terminator 2 was a good film, and I appreciated and I accepted it as a continuation of the story. This one doesn't actually feel like a continuation of the same story at all. If it wasn't a Terminator film, I would find it very enjoyable and not as weird feeling. But as a Terminator film that has same characters and it's supposed to follow the other films, it feels weird. It feels wrong. It does not feel right. I mean, there is stuff in it that's straight up dumb, cheesy. But, I mean, stuff. I mean, not like... I'm not saying the movie is dumb and cheesy overall. I'm saying there's stuff in it that's dumb and cheesy in parts. But there's other stuff that's so good. So it's weird. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I could say I like it or not. I have to compartmentalize it in order to talk about it, really, because there are parts of it that I enjoyed a lot. There are parts I really thought were well done. And there were parts that I really just didn't sit right, that didn't feel right. I feel like when you make a sequel to a film or anything, especially when it has such a following, you have to follow the story. You have to follow the elements in the other films that people love so much because that's what they're fans of those films. That's why they're coming to see this other one. I know that there's other films that have done that. Particularly the first thing that comes to my mind is the Halloween series. It goes against canon like so many times, and so many of the different sequels kind of throw out things from one thing and whatever, and it becomes to the point where you just expect the next film to not have elements of some of the other ones. I mean, it just has come to that because you can't follow. I mean, there's not a timeline that you could follow throughout all the films. I don't think Terminator is that way, though. Even with the other, everybody loves the first two, but even with the other sequels, I don't think it ever negates stuff that happens before. And I think that's important, even if you're adding a bunch of stuff, to negate stuff that happens in the earlier films, I think it's a disservice, really. I think it's not making a sequel. And this one was a sequel. It wasn't like a revamp or anything. It was a sequel. So, I think in that way it failed. But there were other things that were quite well done. So, it's a movie that, I have to compartmentalize it. I can't say whether I just straight up like it or just straight up didn't like it. It's just there's parts, there's elements. So, I don't know. I don't know. I just don't know. It just feels weird. I neither liked nor disliked it. I don't know, or I liked and disliked. It's more of that. I liked it and I disliked it. I don't know. It feels weird. It feels weird. What do you think? What do you think of Terminator Dark Fate? I want to know. Put it in the comments because I'm really curious. I want to know how other people feel about it because I felt like it was so... It's not even an uneven film. It's just there's elements that are good and elements that aren't good. I don't know. I have to stop this review because it's so weird. But yeah, let me know. What do you think? What do you think of this film? How do you think of the series in general? I know some people really only look at the first two and then dismiss all the rest. Some people love all of them. I want to know what you think. And then I don't have a next movie scheduled, but I'll have one soon because I watch movies all the time. So, okay. Thanks.